What's up, everyone? This is Corey from the OverLook, and we go over the books you may have overlooked. Well, this is it. We are in the final 2 volumes of the Superior Spider-Man saga, and just in time for the premiere of Spider-Man No Way Home. I hear there's a character that crosses over from the Netflix shows and into the movie, so now seems like the perfect time to cover this part of the Superior Spider-Man story that guest stars Daredevil and the Punisher. As he swings above the skyline, Otto notices the city is eerily quiet. He has removed the heads of the major crime syndicates, and his spider bots patrol the area 24/7. But there's still an uneasiness in the air, a tension he can't explain, as if the city is balancing precariously on the brink of war, and someone is looking for its tipping point. Like the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand that began World War I, the shot heard around the world that started the American Revolution, or the bullet that killed Tupac that apparently kicked off some bi-coastal rap war, according to Anna Maria, that is. But Otto's got news for them. It's not going to happen tonight, and it's not going to happen to the Superior Spider-Man. Otto's spider sense flares, alerting him of a swarm of incoming bullets. He narrowly dodges just in time, using a billboard of the mayor to spring himself forward onto a nearby rooftop. However, the hero still isn't safe. Another band of bullets nearly missed their mark. To this, Spider-Man covers his torso in webbing, creating a makeshift armor, and leaps in for the counterattack. As he closes the gap, Spider-Man's assailant is able to land a number of shots point blank, but the bullets just ricochet right off his new and improved webbing. Spider-Man not only absorbs the attack, but counters with his own, a kick across the attacker's jaw. The hit lands with enough force to bring the man to his knees. "Webs are bulletproof now, huh?" The man scoffs, wiping the blood from his chin. That's when Spider-Man realizes it's the Punisher. Confound it! Frank Castle, what the hell are you doing? And how in the world did you access my secret files or learn that my new prototype webbing is bulletproof? Oh, you didn't know? I assumed. Besides, I wasn't aiming to kill you, just to get your attention. There are other ways to contact me, Spider-Man responds angrily. The two are joined by a third, and you're not responding to any of them, so don't blame the Punisher, 'cause the devil made him do it. Without looking, Otto recognizes his voice, the self-proclaimed hero of Hell's Kitchen. Cads! You're not here 3 seconds and you've already worked in a devil reference. And now, we're going on 5 seconds and you've already used the words egads and confound it. You're not yourself, Spider-Man, and I'm a tad concerned. Interesting. And what do those super senses of yours tell you? That you're the real deal. But I'm the man without fear, not the man without a gut feeling. So, I need you to do something for me. I intercepted the Punisher making a beeline for you. Seems one of his safe houses was broken into and some of his acquired items were stolen. Namely, a goblin glider. He's under the impression you confiscated it during your No Crime on My Time campaign. I can speak for myself, the Punisher grunts. And yet you don't, Daredevil counters. So you let him take pot shots at me, Spider-Man interjects. I told him he could get it out of his system if he used rubber bullets. And you listened, of course. Spider-Man turns to the Punisher. He laughs. Let's just say, I hear as well as he sees. Daredevil attempts to refocus on the topic at hand. Listen to me. Something's happening in the city. We all feel it. No one is certain of anything anymore, and I think a little trust would go a long way here. What can you show us that'll convince him you don't have it? How about my derriere? Otto chuckles to himself before leaping off the building and swinging into the distance. It takes some effort, but Daredevil and the Punisher are able to track Spider-Man down and convince him to comply. As they are escorted into Spider-Man's base within Spider Island, Daredevil makes sure to thank him for his understanding. I appreciate this, Spider-Man. I know you're not one for allowing visitors. Just don't touch anything. My Spider Patrol have enough to do without being distracted by your presence. I can tell. I'm detecting a lot of tension in here. Stay close, Spider-Man orders. Ever since Sun Girl trapezed through here, I've beefed up security. TK-421, are you at your post? Across the warehouse, there's a Spider Patrolman set up with a sniper. He's got the shot. And he's always at the ready. That is, until the Punisher spots him and shoots the sniper out of his hands with a pistol. Meanwhile, Spider-Man uses a nearby keypad to get past his security protocols. I've added a considerable number of protective measures since I took over this island. This place is more secure now than when it was an actual prison. Clever, Daredevil says. You've even altered the tones so they can't be linked to their respective numbers. Genius, I know. I've collected weapons from every known villain this city has to offer. It's a stockade with enough firepower to obliterate a small country. So yes, I take the security of these items very seriously. Spider-Man holds his head up high as the door to the weapons locker slides open and reveals a completely barren room. Both Spider-Man and Daredevil respond by scanning the area, but find nothing. Out of nowhere, Spider-Man's spider sense goes crazy. Trouble, Daredevil shouts. Spider sense, Spider-Man adds. No shit, the Punisher says as he raises his pistol and fires between the two of them. The two look everywhere except in front of them, where a pumpkin bomb is hurling in their direction. The bullet from the Punisher's weapon hits the bomb and it detonates in midair. Spider-Man uses his webs to create a shield for the team, but that does nothing to protect them from the blinding plumes of smoke that follow. The Punisher pulls out his night vision goggles, and Daredevil scans the area one more time for their attacker. Footsteps. Someone's trying to escape through the smoke. He's in disguise, confirms the Punisher. How do you... Night goggles? You gonna steal my flaming D's as well? Shut up, you fools! We're wasting time! Spider-Man curses as he jumps through the cloud and into the next corridor. What was he disguised as? Everyone else in this place. Spider-Man, Daredevil, and the Punisher enter the corridor and are greeted by about a dozen spiderlings. Spider-Man makes the call. Spider Patrol, There is an imposter among us. We are on high alert. Daredevil reads everyone's heartbeat and finds one in the room that is incredibly rapid compared to the rest. There, he points out. Spider-Man approaches the traitor, saying, "Hold it, miscreant! What have you done with my..." Before Spider-Man can finish his sentence, the traitor ripped open his jacket and reveals that there are countless pumpkin bombs and packs of C4 strapped to his body. The traitor holds up the detonator in front of the heroes and hovers his thumb over the button. Well, Spider-Man sighs. At least we know where the bombs wound up. The Punisher lifts his pistol and points it at the traitor's head. Just say the word, and I can defuse the situation. Daredevil counters. We can all take him down, Castle. That's not the point. We're trying to go about it a different way. The traitor hesitates before telling them, I'll do whatever you want. Of course you will, Spider-Man scoffs. Now stand down and tell me how you breached security. Just say the word, the traitor repeats. This angers Spider-Man until Daredevil tells him the traitor isn't talking to them. Just give me a sign, the traitor huffs. I can do this. But then, the transmission ends. Within the Goblin Underground, the Goblin King sits at his throne. He is accompanied by Menace and Phil Urich, the Goblin Knight. Why didn't you give him the order? Asks the Knight.
Daredevil would have detected my voice, and I'm not ready to reveal myself just yet.
So you reward our mole by leaving him alone in the hands of our enemy? The king turns to his knight and lifts him by his cowl.
He is a mere pawn in my plan, Goblin Knight. He serves the Green Goblin by serving his purpose. And besides, he's not alone.
Don't do it, Spider-Man pleads. I can protect you. I've taken down every crime boss in the city. I can... You have no idea what you've done, spits the traitor. You've practically helped him to... There's a bang, and out of nowhere, the traitor's thumb explodes. He screams out in pain, dropping the detonator. The traitor then looks up to see the Punisher standing there, smugly, with a smoking gun. Stop wasting our time. Then how about I waste your lives? The traitor uses his good hand to retrieve a grenade from his pack and tosses it in between him and the Punisher. More smoke? Nice try, the Punisher says as he slides back on his night vision goggles. However, to his surprise, the traitor wasn't throwing a smoke bomb to cover his escape. It was a flash bomb. As the Punisher falls, both Spider-Man and Daredevil leap into the fray. Spider-Man snatches the goblin bombs, and Daredevil attempts to dispatch the traitor. The Punisher's goggles enhance the light, and Daredevil reasons the flash from the bomb probably destroyed his retinas. I can't see, the Punisher yells. What the hell was that? The traitor smirks. It was a... The man is cut short when the Punisher grabs his knife and blindly launches it in the traitor's direction, successfully stabbing him in the chest. I know what it was. I just needed to hear your voice. You moron! Spider-Man shouts. I need him to talk. Spider-Man grabs the traitor by his collar. Tell me Who is behind this? What did you mean I helped? The traitor laughs. You're the blindest one here, Spider-Man. You've been working so hard to clean up this city. And all for what? So he can come and take it all away from you. Who? Damn it! Who took all my weapons? I'm the superior Spider-Man. I'll scour this city until I find the truth. The man's laugh briefly turns into a cackle before it is cut short by a cough filled with his own blood. You have no idea how deep this goes, and I'm gonna be the guy who delivers the first blow. You in what army? Your own. Betrayal. It's a painful realization, because unlike bullying, it's personal. Just like it was when he was 10 and two neighborhood boys pretended to befriend him just so they could get a laugh out of the school crowd. This was before he was the superior Spider-Man. Before he was Dr. Octopus. When he was merely Otto Octavius. Back then, his defense was to retreat to his room, his happy place. Among his books and prized possessions, he felt protected there, secure. As he got older, Otto would swap that feeling for power, for revenge, and that quiet haven would get buried so deep that he hasn't thought about it in years. It is only mentioned now because despite the decades of memories he possesses, his and a few of Parker's, that sanctuary is the only place Otto wants to be. He calls himself the superior Spider-Man. But the truth is, he's been duped. On top of discovering that his arsenal of weapons there at Spider Island had been stolen, a suicide bomber then tried to blow the place up. He, Daredevil, and Punisher took down the traitor, but not before he dropped an even bigger bomb. The fact that Otto's entire crew is taking orders from somebody else. His mind is whirling with questions. His confidence is shaken. The bomber said Otto had already helped him, but didn't reveal who. So now Otto doesn't know who to trust. Clearly, not his men. Daredevil? He's been leery of Otto since he became Spider-Man. Punisher? Sure. He was blinded by a flash bomb, but that's just the sort of thing he'd do to lessen suspicion. So, the answer? Trust no one. The heroes do what they can to ward off the horde of soldiers. Some of them are equipped with the stolen technology, making them quite the sinister syndicate of their own. Otto is struck by his own metal arms, causing him to stumble. The horde attempts to dogpile on top of him, but Daredevil and the Punisher are able to clear the immediate area, and Daredevil quickly gets Spider-Man to safety. Get off of me! Spider-Man punches Daredevil across the jaw in order to free himself from the hero's grasp. Stop it! Daredevil yells. I know you're rattled, but we have to work. Castle behind you! Together! No, I'm not trusting anyone I'm not sure of. Not sure of? I just guided the Punisher through an assault, and you didn't make one joke about the blind leading the blind. When does Spider-Man not? Pumpkin bomb! Spider-Man shouts, diving in and pushing Daredevil out of the way so he can hit the weapon with a web bullet. It makes contact, and the bomb explodes in midair. The Punisher is caught in the crossfire. As much as Otto hates to admit it, Daredevil's right. The odds are against him. But he'd still rather not rely on help from anyone unless he has to. If you can call it help. The Punisher, still blinded, but now collapsed on the floor, howls in pain. He stands to his feet, aims his gun in Spider-Man's direction, and begins to shoot. Burn me from above, will ya? Look where you're firing, you dolt! Spider-Man hisses. He can't see Spider-Man. He's responding to external stimuli. Daredevil reasons. Then he shouldn't have been stupid enough to get blinded. Not the best time to alienate the remainder of your friends here, Spider-Man. The Punisher adds. These weren't friends, Castle. They were his henchmen. Spider-Man neither confirms nor denies Daredevil's last statement. Instead, he rips off the cowl of one of the Spiderlings and realizes he doesn't recognize the man underneath the mask at all. They're neither. My suspicions are correct. These are just men disguised as my patrol. My actual patrols are still on the main floor above us. Then maybe you should call them, Daredevil asks. Because we're in over our heads. The ground beneath the hero's feet begins to shake. This causes Spider-Man and Daredevil to look behind them. And that's when they see one of Spider-Man's new and improved arachnauts stomping over, preparing to attack. The monstrous machine stomps down, cracking the ground and throwing the heroes aside. When the coast is clear, the pilot opens the hatch and crawls out. He approaches a downed Spider-Man, draws his pistol, and tells him, "Luring you here was our job, Spider-Man, but killing you will be our pleasure." Daredevil manages to sit himself up just in time to throw his baton at their enemy. "Spider-Man, stand back!" "No!" Spider-Man yells. He snatches the baton out of the air and uses it to strike the traitor until he's rendered unconscious. "When I want your help, I'll ask for it." "Then call your damn men if you're not willing to trust us." "I'm trying, but all frequencies are being blocked, and the codes to the doors have been changed. We're on our own down here." Meanwhile, the Punisher is choking out an enemy. However, he gets distracted by a whizzing sound coming from behind him. "Great. Then how about a few trust exercises? Like falling backwards onto my blade and seeing if I catch you. Wait, that sound. It's my glider!" The Punisher opens his eyes and beams at Spider-Man. "What? That's not possible. I told you I never took your glider." "Sure you didn't." The Punisher raises his gun. "Now who wants to talk about trust?" "Punisher, you moron, you're aiming right for me." "I know. My eyesight is getting better." Spider-Man barely gets out of the way. Before he can even think, 3 bullets are already bolting right past him. However, unbeknownst to him, the traitor on the glider was right behind Spider-Man and closing in fast. The Punisher lands all 3 shots, one in his chest, one in his throat, and one in the center of his forehead. The kill shot causes the traitor to fall off the modified glider, and the Punisher leaps into the air and jumps back on. The Punisher circles the room, testing out the machine. I needed you to camouflage the shot. These gliders all have the same visual detection systems. Then how did you know that one's yours? Asks Spider-Man. Because mine's armed with government-issued drone missiles. Plus, it's got a fucking skull on it. On cue, the Punisher releases a bombardment of drone missiles that successfully take down the massive metal mechanism. You idiot! That was an expensive piece of machinery. And our lives are worth more than it, Daredevil reminds him. In fact, everything down here is putting us in danger. We need to level the playing field. Please tell me you've got some sort of self-destruct system in place. Spider-Man squints his eyes. There's a long pause before he chooses to respond. No. You're lying, Daredevil counters immediately. Of course I'm lying, you imbecile. This entire wing is where I keep my prototypes. I'd be a fool not to have it protected. And what good is being surrounded by the ocean if you can't have tons of water ready to flood this area the moment I'm not here to defend it? Then do it, Daredevil snaps. But I'm here to defend it. And you're losing. I'll hold them off while you open the gates. There's no guarantee that I can. You better hope there is. Spider-Man swings over to the control panel and, again, attempts to access the island security server while Daredevil gets overrun by a group of traitors. These codes have been changed too. The only way to do it now is manually. Then do it. Without the access, Spider-Man has no choice but to open the door by force. He grabs a hold of the release lever and tugs on it weakly. But the time that went into making this equipment was extensive. Stop stalling. The level of power achieved on these models is unparalleled, Spider-Man reasons, now pulling a little harder on the lever. Just do it! Daredevil roars. Spider-Man summons his extra appendages and jams them into the wall and floor in order to produce more leverage. When that doesn't work, he jumps up and uses the strength of his own legs to assist. I hope this makes you happy. They say, pride cometh before the fall. Whoever orchestrated this attack knew just how to use Otto's ego against him, leaving him with nothing. His confidence, gone. The months of research creating his new equipment, gone. The air in his lungs, almost gone. The lever slams down, releasing the floodgates, and everything within the island is consumed by the bone-chilling waters of the Atlantic. Without the help of Daredevil, Spider-Man would not have made it out alive. And while today should be an example of how faith can be restored, the seeds of doubt have been securely planted. The suicide bomber said Otto had no idea how deep this goes. And so, he's left to wonder, was the Punisher really trying to shoot him earlier? Or worse still, did Daredevil just get him to destroy his new weapons in order to leave him impaired? After all Otto's been through today, he still doesn't have any answers. Still doesn't know who's responsible for all this. Although, he's beginning to have his suspicions. Daredevil gets Spider-Man to safety as the Punisher uses his Uzi to piece off the remainder of their enemies. For the record, Daredevil begins, "I still don't approve of your methods. It's one thing to wash these guys out to sea, but..." "Shut up, Devil. We're lucky to be alive." Spider-Man doesn't pay attention to the others back and forth. He's too distracted by one of the traitors laying on the ground near them, unconscious. And somehow, deep down, he knows there's only one person who can get into a man's mind like this. Only one person who would strike on such a personal level. Even though Otto purged Parker from his brain, this body he's in is still his. Certain physical responses can't help but be reflexive. Otto tells himself this because it's the only explanation he has for the chill that runs down his spine. Spider-Man pulls back the collar of the traitor and finds a small green and purple tattoo on the man's neck. How could Otto have been so stupid? It doesn't matter if he's won this battle, because he may have just lost the war. Spider-Man versus the Green Goblin. It's a classic fight. What's up, everyone? This is Corey from the OverLook, and we go over the books you may have overlooked. Before we get started, I just wanted to welcome anyone who may be new here. And to anyone who is a returning viewer, I just wanted to say thank you. This is the 50th. That's right, the 50th video in our Superior Spider-Man playlist. That's a big deal. You know, I never thought that I would be making audio comics, especially of the Superior Spider-Man of all characters. But I'm so glad you guys are letting me share this with you. This series has been a lot of fun. It's been 31 days. The so-called Superior Spider-Man has failed. Under his watch, the Green Goblin took control of New York's underworld. This is all Otto Octavius' fault. Now, it's his responsibility to take the Goblin down. Win or lose, this shall be Otto's greatest battle. Going by all available data, Otto Octavius, the Superior Spider-Man, has achieved his goal. By targeting and destroying every major crime syndicate, he has effectively ended organized crime in New York. So why is the city laughing at him? It can't be happening. It's impossible. All 5 boroughs are under his surveillance, yet none of this is registering. He can hear the police sirens, screams, and gunfire. He's not deaf. So how can he be so blind? After months of tireless work, after crushing the dissent within his own ranks, he should be done. Crime should be a statistical anomaly. And yet, police reports are coming in garbled. Links to the Daily Bugle's newsfeed are crashing. His Spider-Bot cameras are showing no emergencies. But the city's burning. I can see it. Spider Island, come in. Nothing. Then it happens. An entire grid in Otto's citywide sweep shuts down. He soon learns it's the area around the Brooklyn Bridge, and he tells himself he has to go. He has to see this with his own eyes. Until now, Otto thought only 2 criminals had escaped his detection. The 2 hobgoblins, Uric and Kingsley, the idiot and the coward. He could never account for that glitch in the system. Until now. He was chasing the wrong goblin. All this time, it was Osborn. And now, he wants Spider-Man to know. Not just that it's him, but that it's over, and he's already won. Within the mindscape, inside the shared psyche of Otto Octavius and Peter Parker, Peter is taking in everything he can. He's been wandering around there for long enough. Now, he knows 31 memories. That's it. Everything Ock poked and prodded through before he dumped the rest. All the ones Otto committed to his memory. And now, they're all Peter's got. The sum total of whatever existence he has left. The question is, what can he do with them before the doctor finds out? Suddenly, Otto's face appears in the clouds. Accessing memories. A mental construct of a bridge emerges from the ground. 2 small figures with it. A man in red and a woman with blonde hair falling from the precipice. Yes, the Brooklyn Bridge, but go further back. Now, a 3rd figure appears, a goblin, laughing that all too familiar laugh. Yes, there. This merits further study. Peter sinks into the shadows to avoid being seen. He can't help but wonder aloud why in the world Otto's thinking about the night Gwen, of all people, died. No, stop it, Pete. Gotta focus. I've only got 31 pieces of cover down here. And if Doc keeps looking around, he will find me. And I'm in no condition for a rematch. What I need now is a good hiding place. That's when Peter stumbles upon an old shared memory of one of the first times Otto got the better of him in a fight. Not much room on my side of memory lane, but maybe, if I'm lucky, it's a 2-way street. Don't remember trying this before. Then again, I don't remember much of anything. But this could work. If there's a way to take you down, Ock, maybe the answer's tucked away inside your memories. Here goes. Peter dives into the memory of Otto Octavius and swirls into the vast, colorful palette of the mindscape. He wasn't ready for this. It's a flood of moments, an ocean of memories, and Peter's just 31 drops, being absorbed, diluted, washed away. He can't hold on. He didn't think it through. It's a boy, says the doctor, jostling the baby before handing him over to his mother. Here you go, Mrs. Octavius. Have you chosen a name? Yes, she says softly. Otto Gunther Octavius. No! Peter screams from the baby's cloudy subconscious. I'm Peter Parker. I'm Peter Parker. I'm Peter Within Tribeca, within the apartment of Peter Parker, Otto tinkers with one of his spider bots. That's not right, he mumbles. How did he do it? How did he circumvent my technology? Of all the... You're muttering again, Slick. Anna Maria enters the room with a small snack and a cup of water. Anna Maria! Sorry, dear. A little preoccupied. Oh, I know what your problem is. Low blood sugar. You forgot to eat again. And sleep? Ever since I moved in, you've barely come to bed. Is it? No, Otto says quickly. I've just been busy, is all. Helping Spider-Man is very important work. Speaking of which, you have your own company now. And you're rarely there, too. So Johnny and I, we've been covering for you a lot. Is that so? Otto asks. You're too good to me, Anna. You know, I've been thinking about making you a partner. Otto opens his jacket pocket and glances briefly at the small ring box inside. Anna, unaware of this, says, I'm honored, but you should probably run it by Sajani first. No, Otto counters. I think you have the final word here. Well, as long as it doesn't have to go past Spider-Man 2. Slick, I know you two have some kind of agreement, but you won't be doing him any good if you're tired, hungry, and destitute. I'm sure even Spidey can recognize that. Recognize? Otto gasps. Of course. Curse me for a fool. The one part of the Spider-Bots I didn't design. Quickly, he picks up his phone. Uatu Jackson, this is Peter Parker. We have to talk immediately. It's about your facial recognition software. What? He hung up. On me? The impudent whelp. Later, Mayor Jameson makes a journey to see Liz Allen, CEO of Alchemax, the corporation made off the bones of Oscorp and the IPs created by Horizon Labs. Your man Stone messaged me, said the order was ready. I want to see them, now. Liz explains to the mayor that Tiberius can get ahead of himself. There are still safety tests to perform. The mayor, however, cares little of that. So, Mason Banks, head of security, escorts the mayor to the back lab where Tiberius Stone and his assistant, the time-displaced Spider-Man from 2099, Miguel O'Hara, await. Do whatever it takes, the mayor tells the two. Wrap this up, fast. The Spider's planning something. He never stops. I see that now. And he and the Goblin are in cahoots, laying siege to my city. I have to put an end to it. Tiberius scoffs. Well, your private Slayer patrol will do just that. Give the word and... The mayor, without looking, instructs the others. No! There's one more thing he needs to know. Before he dies, he needs to know it was by my hand. Elsewhere, within the West Village, Uatu Jackson does his best to ignore the summonings of Peter Parker. But, suddenly, there is a tapping at his window. He explores the origin of the noise and finds Spider-Man clinging to the outer wall of his apartment. Uatu Jackson. Spidey? Whatever grievances you have with Parker can wait. You will answer to me, though. Yeah, sure. I mean, dude, you're like an Avenger in everything. It doesn't take long for Spider-Man and Uatu to find the origin of the Goblin Protocols. The Protocols order all Spider-Bot functions to ignore anything with a Goblin face. But, luckily, Spider-Man can use that to locate the source of the transmission. Wait, Uatu says. This is the same application I developed for the Wraith in the lenses in her costume. She could be compromised too. We should warn. Priorities, Jackson. One thing at a time. Your friend, Captain Watanabe, can wait. Hold on. You know she's really... I know many things, but most of all, I know the goblin must be stopped. As far as I'm concerned, the needs of Yuri Watanabe are a distant second. And at that moment, Yuri Watanabe is still on the search for Carly Cooper. I want to know exactly where Peter Parker is right now, she orders. Sajani Jaffrey crosses her arms and raises an eyebrow. And I assure you, Captain, as his business partner, I couldn't agree more. This isn't a joke, Miss Jaffrey. Peter Parker is my #1 person of interest in the case of a missing police officer. And I find it hard to believe that the owner of a new startup company could go days without contacting any of you. Sajani rolls her eyes. Tell me about it. Believe me, Captain, whatever backroom interrogation games you've got planned for Parker are nothing compared to what I'm going to do when I get my hands on him. Captain, Watanabe pauses. Nice try, Miss Jaffrey, but I'm not buying any of it. You can expect to see officers camped out here until that man decides to show his face. This isn't over. I will find him, no matter what rock he's hiding under. Spider-Man crawls within the dank sewers beneath New York, his signals holding, and strong, no matter how far under the city it's leading him. According to his files, these tunnels were for a scrapped and abandoned subway line correction, a fully functioning line, running in secret under the entire city. Otto can't help but wonder how on earth the goblin pulled that off. Drawing power, avoiding other trains, it's astounding. Which explains how he and his men get around and out of sight so quickly. A criminal underworld, literally underground. Otto would be impressed if he wasn't so...
Spider-Man! Took you long enough.
A voice scratches through the darkness, alerting Otto.
And after I sent you the world's largest invitation. Lights!
A fleet of floodlights turn on, blinding the spider. Goblin, show yourself!
Bit slow today, bug brain. That's exactly what I'm doing! You heard me say lights, right? Thought you'd like to see exactly what you're up against.
Brave talk.
Yeah? Well, that's just me all over. Me and my army.
There are 10 men within Spider-Man's eyeline. 11, counting the goblin. Behind his lenses, Spider-Man brings up all the data he can about the various villains before jumping into attack. But before he can, the Goblin King snaps his finger, dismissing the others.
Boys, if you don't mind, the spider and I have business to discuss.
What? You're giving up on your advantage. Why would you?
Oh, that costume parade. Just a simple show of force. Sorry. Hope that hasn't gotten us off on the wrong foot. Please, have a seat. After all, this is a whole new dynamic for us.
The Goblin King takes a seat at the table and waits for Spider-Man to oblige. Otto's spider sense isn't reading anything from the table, chair, or the room, or even the goblin. But then again, given the circumstances, Why would it? What do you mean? He asks, taking the seat. The goblin digs in his satchel and removes Carly Cooper's journal before tossing it on the table.
Well, strictly speaking, going by the book, this book, actually, you and I have never been the worst of enemies, have we, Otto?
Otto doesn't say a word. The king, however, says plenty.
Yes, I can see what you're thinking. It's because of that friend of yours, Carly Cooper. Well, not your friend. The real Spider-Man's friend. She figured it out and connected all the dots in this little book. Gotta hand it to you, Octavius. I always tried to get under Spidey's skin, but you actually did it. You literally got into his webbed head. Good for you. Nothing? I don't usually give compliments. Fine. Here it is. Over the years, we've both made plays at criminal empires. Why? Because we understand that it's the lawless. All those who break the rules, who shape the world. And as men of rare intellect, we know we can't leave that privilege to regular brutes and thugs. Only the best and brightest will do, which is why I am offering you a partnership. Together, we could rule New York. The Goblin and his second.
Second? Otto thinks to himself. His rage peaks, and instantly, he stands to his feet and slams his fist on the table, breaking it to pieces. Never! You understand me, Osborn. I was Dr. Octopus. Now, I am something far greater. I am Spider-Man. I will free my city from your grip, and this shall be my finest hour. The very notion forces a cackle out of the king.
More like your final seconds.
The Goblin King raises his hand, and a blast of electricity exits his glove and cracks the air as he attacks Spider-Man.
Die, fool! And let there be an end to this, once and for all!
The king's laughter is cut short when he notices that his attack isn't actually affecting Spider-Man at all. It's just going through him, pixelating him. Sorry, you were saying?
What? But how?
Hologram, you pointy-eared imbecile. Please, did you really think I'd march into your secret lair alone, unprepared, and with no reinforcements? Don't let my new youthful appearance fool you, Norman. I've been at this for years, longer than you. The goblin sighs.
But apparently not long enough to know why they're called secret lairs. Begin the assault,
he says into the speaker tucked away in his collar. Above Spider Island, Menace, the Goblin Knight, and Monster lead a malignity of goblins with only one goal in mind: to bring down Spider Island, to fire all weapons, to raise the entire base to the ground. And so they do, with gleeful enjoyment, with their gliders loaded, with their pumpkin bombs in hand, and within a matter of minutes, within a bath of wicked fire, the entire base is brought down. From Battery Park, along the coast of the southern tip of Manhattan, civilians stare in disbelief at the flames illuminating the night. Some wonder aloud if this is some sort of terrorist attack. Others are fully aware of the culprit. It was Spider Island that was attacked. It couldn't have been anyone else but the Goblin. From within the island, everything is coming to an end. Otto rips off his VR helmet. But I cracked the Goblin's stealth protocols. There's no way his forces could have gotten through my security grid. How is this possible? Explain! The Goblin King sneers.
Did you actually think you could out-hack me? You never could hold a candle to Oscorp tech. You should have joined me when you had the chance, Otto. Now, there's nothing left for you to do but die! Attack, my darlings! Raise the spider's nest to the ground!
Outside the base, Menace, the Goblin Knight, and Monster lead the goblins into battle as they vow to exterminate the bugs, to squash each and every one of them before they can scurry away. One spiderling manages to scramble inside the hideout to where the superior Spider-Man still stands. Boss, there's too many of them. We're getting slaughtered up here. What are your orders? I don't know. Should we abandon base? Give me a second. At this point, even Otto's robot butler, the living brain, is requesting his next order. Quiet! Spider-Man shouts. All of you! I'm trying to think! Come on, boss. Snap out of it. We don't have time to. At that moment, a pumpkin bomb rolls into the room and detonates. The living brain shields Spider-Man, but the Spiderling isn't so fortunate. Status: did this unit provide sufficient shielding? Yes, robot, Spider-Man says softly. Well done, but that Spiderling. Life signs terminated. Not 23, he sighs. He was my favorite. A strategic retreat is called for. Men, listen up. Keep at it. Hold back the enemy at all costs. Those are your standing orders. While Spider-Man's men are butchered one by one, he makes his getaway by jumping on the back of the living brain and uses him as a makeshift motorboat. Faster, my automaton! Go! 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 This equipment is invaluable. Ensuring its safety is top priority. I have it! Set a course for Pier 64. Alert. Hostiles are within range. Fine! Then go where they can't follow. Submerge, robot! Elsewhere, within the mindscape, Peter Parker is realizing he's in too deep. He didn't want Doc Ock to know he was back, that Peter Parker was walking around in their shared psyche. So, he tried hiding inside Otto's memories, but it backfired. Now, Peter's stuck, living out Otto's entire life, trapped in a childhood of suffocating love and brutal, unrelenting rage. He has to remind himself these are not his parents. He was raised better than this. He is not Otto Octavius. He is Peter Parker. But the lines keep blurring. They're alike in so many ways. Escaping into science and studies, enduring bullies at school, the constant beatings at home. No, that's not right. The constant smothering. Stop it, Peter thinks. That never happened to me. No matter what, if I'm going to survive in here, I have to hold on to one thought. I have to remember, I am not Otto Octavius. I am Peter Parker. Elsewhere, on Spider Island, or what little remains of it, each of the good goblin's warriors kneel before their king as he hovers down on his glider and welcomes them.
Ah, my perfect soldiers, all in a row. How precious. Good work today, puppets. Gold stars all around. And look what you've given me. An empire in ruins. Happened to me once. Never again. So, tell me, any loose ends? Dangling threads? And by that, I mean the web spinner. Where is he? Speak.
The Goblin Knight nervously steps forward. He, got away. He's gone.
Of course he is.
The king grins.
Doesn't matter. I know his every weakness. All the ways to draw him out. Go, my Goblin Nation. You have your targets. Let the spider know. Until I see his little webbed head again, no one is safe.
In Midtown Manhattan, on the front steps of the Alchemax corporate property, Mayor J. Jonah Jameson makes an important announcement to the press. He tells the people of New York to remain calm, that there's nothing to fear, not while he's in charge. Under his administration, New York's held off giant mutant spiders, mad scientists, aliens, ninjas, and whatever cockamamie thing you can think of. And today is no different. That's why he's calling the press there, to put their minds at ease. Thanks to both the mayor's own quick thinking and a new city contract with the fine people at Alchemax, the NYPD's anti-spider patrol has been upgraded into a fleet of goblin slayers. Threat or menace, the Goblin Gang is as good as gone, courtesy of Mayor J. Jonah Jameson. From Brooklyn, Mary Jane Watson watches the news unfold from her apartment couch, and she's wise enough to know it doesn't matter what Jameson's calling them. Those are spider slayers. She's seen this before. She just wonders why the mayor's been hiding them. Why not bring them out sooner? The goblins have been running rampant for a month. At that moment, two of the goblin children break through the apartment window, fluttering their wings wildly and flinging shards of glass into the air. It's the two former vulture children who threw Mary Jane off a roof and attacked her nightclub, back again to torment her. However, the children didn't realize that Mary Jane could be considered a veteran when it comes to dealing with costumed extras. She rushes to her Cabela's brand safe, withdraws a pair of web shooters, and quickly equips them before webbing the children to the living room wall. It doesn't take her long after that to figure out the Goblin is after her because her connection to both Spider-Man and Peter Parker. However, what the Goblin doesn't realize is that Mary Jane has seen it all before. She knows this is all just one big game, and she knows how the game is played. So, now, that makes her the wild card. Behind Parker Industries, Otto and the Living Brain exit the water and stomp their way through Pier 64 to the back entrance of the building. Sajani Jaffrey, livid, screams out, "Parker, where have you been? You've been missing for a whole month from your own company, and you left me holding the bag. And I'm sure you did an adequate job, Miss Jaffrey, but now if you'll excuse me, I have to." "No, you don't do this. You don't show up out of nowhere with your robot butler. Wait, he's webbed up with... Is that Spider-Man's equipment?" "Yes, you're very observant. It is. Goblins are attacking all over the city, and you bring Spider-Man's tech here. Spider-Man asked me to our place of business." "Tone, Miss Jaffrey. I will not be spoken to that way. We're also being staked out by the cops because of you." "Me?" Otto asks innocently. "What for?" "The disappearance of your ex-girlfriend, Officer Carly Cooper." "Carly? That's not good at all. She knows things." "Yeah," Sajani scoffs. "That doesn't sound at all suspicious." At that moment, the Wraith leaps down from a nearby rooftop. "Agreed," she hisses. "That's why you need to talk, Mr. Parker." Not now," Otto stutters. "Who the hell is this?" Sajani gasps, clearly over the situation. The Wraith, urban vigilante, and secretly police captain Yuri Watanabe. She pretends to be a ghost, but it's all parlor tricks. Stolen Mysterio tech and fear gas. "What have you done with her, Parker?" "Absolutely nothing, you clod." "Confess." "To what?" "Everything I've said is true. Are we done now?" The Wraith's mask has the same facial recognition software and sensors as Otto's spider bots. They're telling her Otto is Parker, and that he's telling the truth. He will easily win here. Then, out of nowhere, Monster swoops in on her glider, screaming out,
"Back off! Parker's mine!"
"What?" the Wraith asks, looking around. "Who said that? Who's there? Show yourself." Otto attempts to slink back while the two women fight each other, but he can't help but be fascinated. It appears Uatu's concerns about the lenses were justified. They're being affected by the goblin protocols as well, and blocking all goblins from them. Monster flies back and attacks the Wraith from every direction, easily getting the best of her. When she's done, she approaches Otto. "Fascinating," he mutters. "I know why you're here. You think since I build Spider-Man's tech, I know where to find him. I don't.
Really? And why do I think you're lying?
Monster asks, pulling off her mask. I assure you, Miss... Sorry, and you are?
They call me Monster, but you probably know me by a better name.
Meanwhile, at the condo of May Parker Jameson and Jay Jameson Sr., a group of hand ninjas, induced with the goblin formula, kick down the door. They announce to the couple that they have been summoned for an audience with the Goblin King. But then, they realize the couple isn't home. They are with Mary Jane, safe in the back seat of her vehicle, and she's on the phone with her Aunt Anna, telling her to follow the drill, just like the two of them practiced. Mary Jane's aunt is to go to the airport and take the first flight out of town. Mary is going to take Aunt May and Uncle Jay to the closest airport to her and do the same. If the goblin wants to play a game, let's see him try it, after Mary Jane has taken all the pieces off the board. In the mindscape, Peter Parker has to admit he's never felt so safe and at peace. He's standing over the grave of the man who raised him, and he feels a sense of relief. No, he should feel guilt. He didn't stop that burglar, and his uncle died because of Uncle. Torbert Octavius was his father, and there was nothing he could do to stop him. Peter remembers every time he struck him, every stinging blow, No, that wasn't me. I'm not Otto Octavius. I'm Peter Parker. He's trapped, stuck inside Otto's life, racing through college, free of Otto's father. Peter excels like never before, but there's still tormentors all around, lesser minds intimidated by his genius. Well, let them. Peter doesn't care, for with these arms, he shall do great things. They'll see. Then they'll be sorry they ever laughed at him. Wait, snap out of it, Pete. This isn't you. You're not. Oh God. The accident. Metal burning to my flesh, fusing to my body. The pain. Worse than anything I've ever imagined. Hold on. I can get through this, he thinks. I can. Ha ha! I'll do more than survive. I shall triumph over this. I shall emerge victorious. Stop it. Remember. Always remember. I am not Otto Octavius. I am Dr. Octopus. At Parker Industries, Otto and Sajani make a break for the door, leaving the living brain to hold off the monsterized Carly Cooper. Is this a joke? She scoffs. This toaster won't hold me for long, Peter. Luckily, Otto has fortified their defenses for these kinds of occasions. As soon as the door opens, letting the two into the building, 8 mechanical tentacles appear out of the ceiling, walls, and floor, blocking the lane and making it more difficult for Monster to chase after them. Monster just laughs as she draws her razor-sharp khopesh and slices down each of the appendages. Mechanical tentacles? Nice touch. But trust me, sweetie, I'm prepared for this one. This is me, remember?
And I know all your secrets.
And apparently you want to be a little chatty about them. Otto pushes Sajani into a nearby laboratory, locks the door behind her, and bolts it down the hallway explaining, "That woman's my ex. Something tells me if we split up, I'm the one she'll follow."
Too true, Petey.
Monster snickers.
You know me. All I ever wanted from you was more alone time.
This is a disaster, Otto thinks. So far, it's just the one goblin, but they all know. If the others come, they'll level this place just like they did Spider Island. I built Parker Industries to be my legacy, and I'll kill every last one of them before I let them destroy it. Even you, Ms. Cooper. It was foolish of you to come alone. Otto leaps into the air and kicks Monster off her glider. Stupid woman, you left me with no other choice but to...
Uh-oh, you got me.
Monster rubs the side of her head.
Lucky shot, right in my earpiece. Now Osborne can't listen in.
What? Otto squints his eyes and waits for his answer.
What do you think, Otto? It's why I chose you as my target. I need you. Only your brain, or Peter's, or whatever's in that skull. You're the only one who can fix this, who can fix me. Hurry, before I lose control again. You have no idea what he has planned for you, for your world.
And across town, at Empire State University, the Dean of Students announces that she is, due to the recent goblin attacks, shutting down the campus until further notice. All of the remaining students gather their things and make their way off school property, Anna Maria Marconi included. But that's when something strange happens. A woman pulls up in a two-door coupe and opens the passenger door. She tells Anna Maria that Mary Jane Watson sent her, and they're gathering up everyone who's close to Peter Parker and getting them out of the city, at least until all this blows over. She then introduces herself as Lily Hollister, one of Peter's friends, and she tells Anna Maria that she has nothing to be worried about. Everything is going to be just fine. There is a seemingly endless goblin army rampaging through the 5 boroughs. People are urged to stay indoors and off the streets. There are fires, explosions, gunshots. Authorities are responding as best they can, but all too often they are one step behind. And now, a reporter is live on the scene of the latest attack at tech startup Parker Industries. CEO Sajani Jaffrey is here to comment. The Goblin King sits on the edge of his throne, listening intently to the news. That is when Menace flies in with Anna Maria in hand. But the king tells her that can wait. The news is on, and it looks like Sajani from Parker Industries has something to say.
A goblin, some woman calling herself Monster, attacked us. Said it was because our ties with Spider-Man. It was horrible. She threw bombs.
Our roof collapsed on her and my colleague, Peter Parker. Emergency services don't know when they can get here. I want to be hopeful, but I don't see how anybody could be alive in that. The Avengers are stretched to their limits, caught between fighting goblins and helping first responders save lives. Even obscure vigilantes like Cardiac, they're all out there, and it's not enough. The timing's perfect. Mayor Jameson's Spider Slayers can aid in the rescue effort. Liz Allen, CEO of Alchemax, will even sign off on it. They're field ready, just not combat ready. Still, Liz reasons this could be considered a PR win for both the people at Alchemax and the mayor's office. No! The mayor yells. I had you build those things to take down Spider-Man! The mayor is cut off by his assistant, Glory Grant. She has had enough. The city's under attack. Peter Parker, their friend, could be dead, and all Jonah cares about is some old vendetta. Glory quits her job on the spot, claiming she is done with this administration and with Jonah. On her way out the door, she reminds Jonah that his wife's dying wish was for him to let go of his hate. And if he won't do it for her, he never will. Outside Mystic, Connecticut, Mary Jane stops the car so that Aunt May can get a breath of fresh air. May just heard on the radio that Peter could be in danger. The way they made it sound, he could be. And Jonah, Jay can't reach him either. Every call goes straight to voicemail. Mary apologizes for any inconvenience, but as they know, Peter is close to Spider-Man, which means they're all just 1 or 2 steps removed, and their lives can be turned upside down at any minute. However, at that moment, Mary Jane gets a call from Otto. Peter? She gasps. The radio said, a ruse to buy time, Mary Jane. Everyone who knows me is in danger. Get out of... Already done, and May and Jay are with me. But your aunt's freaking out. You have to... You deal with it, Watson. Otto snaps. I've got important things to do. Within Parker Industries, Otto and Sajani are fast at work, searching for a cure for Carly Cooper's goblin poisoning. Carly screams out in pain as she attempts to fight off her possession. It's like her brain is on fire. The goblin serum is complex, Otto comments, reversing its effects more so. Take your time, Sajani scoffs. These straps are the ones you use to hold venom, and that worked out so well. Your attitude is not helping, Sajani. Me? You just blew up half our barely insured building to fake your death. You've got goblins, cops, and vigilantes after you. How does that help us? Not helping. Undoing the effects of the goblin formula is possible, but undoing them so the subject survives. At that moment, Otto gets a call.
Oh, Spider-Man!
Sings a familiar voice. Who is this? How did you get this number?
Please, it's me,
says the king.
And I figured out every single little thing about you, Octavius. Well, everything, but whose pretty little head your mind's in now. So, put on your party suit, Spider-Man! And don't forget those fancy goggles! I have something very special to show you!
Without saying a word, Otto hangs up the phone, turns to Sajani, and tells her he needs to go. That he needs to contact Spider-Man immediately. Wait, what? More important than de-goblinizing your whacked-out ex? I've done the heavy lifting. You're an expert xenobiologist. I'm sure you can fill in the blanks. Fill this in, Sajani yells, raising her middle finger into the air. I can't believe I went into business with such a jerk. And, as if timing wasn't bad enough, the living brain informs Otto that the Wraith is coming too. Not now, robot! Just keep her contained. I'm busy. Once Otto is a safe distance away from Sajani, he puts on his Spider-Man suit and returns the Goblin's call. All right, Osborn, my mask is on. Now, what's this about, you nattering lunatic? The Goblin laughs.
I'll admit it, Otto. You got under my skin. You took something very special from me. Killing Spider-Man. It hurt that you, his number 2 enemy, got to be the one. I thought I could get past it if I made you my lackey, my fool. But you had to be stubborn. You left me no choice, really. You took that triumph from me, so I'm going to take everything from you.
What?
I have to destroy you now, completely and utterly. Wipe you off the face of the earth in the pages of history. Look closely, Otto, at the pretty pictures I'm putting in your goggles. Why, see here, if it isn't Chez Octavius, the house where you grew up. Boom! Oh, that's the lab where you had your little octopus-related accident. Boom! And here's the boneyard, where the police have all of Doc Ock's greatest inventions under lock and key. Boom! Look! The bottling plant where you, as Spider-Man, saved all those people from getting blown up. And guess what? They're all pulling a late-night shift. Boom! And what's this? The Heart Clinic? Where you've dedicated so much time to helping the sick. An impressive body of work, Otto. A legacy any man would be proud of. And... boom!
The Goblin King laughs so uncontrollably that tears begin pouring from his eyes. Spider-Man, on the other hand, falls silent. I'll kill you.
Really? You in what army? Because I blew them up too! Ha! Oh, me! Chin up, Otto. This lesson's not over yet. I'm going to teach you just how much you still have left to lose.
Lessons? Teach? You emphasize those words. What are you getting at, madman?
Just that Professor Goblin is holding class at your alma mater, Empire State University. And I've got one of your classmates with me. Someone very dear to you, Otto. So don't be tardy. But the lecture is full. Bring any uninvited guests.
And what? Otto asks, knowing he shouldn't.
Boom!
The Goblin chuckles. Otto is fully aware that this is a trap to force his hand and make him play into the goblins. He's a fool if he does what the goblin says. But can Otto even take the chance that he truly has Anna Maria? He's never known this side of the equation before, and he can't help but wonder, what would Parker do? Within the mindscape, where what's left of Peter Parker's identity has merged with that of Otto Octavius, all he can feel is hate. He hates this Spider-Man as he's never loathed another living being. In their first meeting, Spider-Man beats him, taunts him, emasculates him, like all the tormentors he's known his entire life combined into one man. And he never stops. Everything he builds, Spider-Man tears down. What he creates, Spider-Man destroys, jesting like a loon all the while. Because of Spider-Man, his plans come to naught. His breakthroughs never happen. The greatness he's meant to achieve becomes humiliation and scorn. Spider-Man destroys his life, and ultimately, through physical beating after beating, ends it. He will leave this world with nothing to show for it, and all because of that infernal Spider-Man. Otto web slings his way as quickly as he can through the Lower East Side. He ignores fires, shootings, and the cries of help from the innocent. He has no time for those idiots. He's trying to call Anna Maria, but she isn't answering. So, he tries Chief Pratchett instead. Otto will just send the coordinates to him, and if the chief will listen, then, "No, you listen," snaps the chief. "I'm on to you, ignoring the goblin, steering us towards his rivals. You're in on it." And the police are done taking orders from Spider-Man. No, now the chief will be working with the mayor and Alchemax, and they will be deploying the Spider Slayers to handle this problem instead. Otto finally makes it to Empire State University to meet with the Goblin King. At last, he huffs. No more distractions, traps or not, it ends here. He swings through a window, shattering the glass, and lands in an empty hallway filled with paintings of goblins and green arrows.
"Oh, I'm disappointed in you,"
chuckles the king.
"Rushing in, no planning, no prep, no henchmen. That's not you, Otto. That's him."
"You'll see the difference between us soon enough, dolt, when I tear your head from your neck." Otto slams open the door at the end of the hallway and stomps into the next room. Within the lecture hall, at the bottom of the steps, the Goblin King hovers on his glider, jeering and holding up a tied-up Professor Lamaze for Otto to see. "Now you're just being rude," he tells Otto. "This isn't about me.
We're here for our special guest! Ta-da!
Lamaze? Otto gasps. Is this some kind of joke? Your hostage is Don Lamaze. Ha! The king's smile quickly folds into a scowl.
Well, that's disappointing. I did my homework. This overstuffed shit is the closest thing Otto Octavius ever had to a friend. I saw footage of you practically killing yourself to save him and that midget. And now, it's like you don't even care.
Osborne, cease your incessant...
But I forget.
The king cuts him off.
You're not the last guy. He could turn a hangnail into an epic tragedy. With you, I have to work a little harder. Consider this a rehearsal. I'll be back when I've found someone who can really raise the stakes for a grand finale.
The king drops Professor Lamaze onto the table and prepares to make his exit. Spider-Man, without a thought, produces his extra appendages and leaps after the madman. You'll go nowhere but the grave, he curses. The king just laughs.
Ha! And out pop the arms. So predictable.
The king snaps his finger and takes full control of the arms and uses them to poke, prod, and stab at Spider-Man.
Thank you,
He howls.
This won't be a total letdown after all. I was saving that one for the climax. But why wait? I can always come up with something else. I'm not a one-trick pony like you. I mean, really, metal arms again? And based on your old designs. So pathetically easy to hijack for a real genius. See you for the final act. If you survive this one, of course.
Spider-Man grabs a hold of his arms and rips them out of his backpack one at a time. Lamaze, run! He yells. They're striking to kill. Blast, nearly took my head off. The professor shuffles to his feet and backs his way out of the room, keeping his eyes on Spider-Man the entire time. Don't just stand there, fool! Move! Spider-Man's arms are causing his spider sense to go crazy. He can't tell which one of them is attacking where. And one arm, unbeknownst to him, prepares to plunge itself into the base of the hero's neck. However, that's when the unexpected happens. Lamaze, instead of leaving, sprints forward and uses his own body to absorb the blow. And the arm, unforgivingly, pierces through the professor's back and out through his chest. You saved me. Spider-Man tears his arm out of Lamaze and eases him to the ground. Why? What could possibly possess you to... You, the professor says softly. He coughs and spills blood out of the corners of his mouth. When you saved me and Miss Marconi, she needed help, but I ran. Ever since, all I wanted was a chance to do right. My whole life, I've been nothing but a fat, pompous ass. But you showed me what it means to be a hero. Thank you, Spider. He dies before he can finish his sentence. And beneath his mask, Otto sheds a silent tear for his old classmate who he took it upon himself to bully all those years ago. It takes a few moments for Otto to gather himself, and even less time for his rage to peak. In reaction to his newfound anger, Spider-Man leaps to his feet and back to the window he entered from. "Goblin!" he shouts to the heavens. "I'll find you somehow. Track the chemicals in your glider's exhaust, or..." Suddenly, Spider-Man's spider sense flares back on. Huh? What now? I have no time to waste on minions. Good, because I wouldn't trust subordinates with this. You should feel honored, Spider-Man. How many criminals are personally arrested by the mayor? Spider-Man is caught totally off guard as he is greeted by a fleet of fully armored, flying spider slayers. And each of them have a picture of Mayor Jameson displayed on their face screens. "Imbecile!" Spider-Man yells back. "If anything happens to me, you'll be exposed as..." "I don't care anymore!" the mayor bellows as the first Spider Slayer grabs onto Spider-Man and slams him into the wall of the building. The very same building that was donated by him on behalf of his wife, Marla Jameson. His rage for the wall crawler is every bit as palpable as Otto's is for the Goblin, and he will not relent. "I lost the woman I love, my self-respect, losing my office, even my freedom. It'll all be worth it if I put an end to you." With Spider Slayers. Yes, and these are stronger than you remembered, aren't they? Light years ahead of the old ones. Powerful enough to tear you limb from... Suddenly, the mayor's Spider Slayer shuts down. They shut down? Spider-Man wonders aloud. How? That would be me, Bithead. Spider-Man looks over and finds Miguel O'Hara, the Spider-Man of the future, sticking to a wall nearby and holding onto a small device. "I remember you, the Spider-Man of 2099. Why are you still in this timeline?" "Be glad I am. Those things would have slagged you if I hadn't shut them off. Let's just say I have an in." "Well done. If you can control them, we'll pursue Osborn together, with a robot army backing us. Now release me." "Maybe later," Miguel tells him. "I've got some questions first, and you're not going anywhere until you answer them." "You fool! We don't have time for this. Actually, I've got decades. I don't belong here, and I'm not so sure you do either. Something's wrong with history. With you. You're acting totally different from the guy you're supposed to be. And until you tell me what the shock is going on, nobody moves." However, at that moment, the Spider Slayers turn themselves back on, and the Slayer holding Spider-Man squeezes him in between his robot hands. "If you think reactivating them will intimidate me," Otto warns. No, I'm not doing this." Miguel repeatedly mashes the button on the small device. "How is Jameson..." Suddenly, a Spider Slayer tackles Miguel through the opposite wall.
"Jameson? You poor saps!"
The horde of Slayers approach the two heroes, but now their screens show the face of Norman Osborn.
"Surely you figured out by now that Norman Osborn runs this city and everything in it!"
Yuri Watanabe, the Wraith, wakes up and is greeted by the disorienting luminescence of the laboratory light fixtures. She almost forgot. She's in Parker Industries, and she's being held captive by the living brain. But now that she's awake, it won't take long for her to free herself. The living brain's directive is to keep the Wraith confined, and only non-lethal force is authorized to prevent escape, which shouldn't matter in the least, because the Wraith's fear gas will not affect this automaton. I know, the Wraith confirms. Now here's a warning for you. I'm not groggy and half-conscious this time, and I'm a lot more than fear gas. The hero then uses her tendrils to grab a hold of and slam the living brain onto the ground. The door behind him is sturdy, but the controls aren't. The Wraith's corrosive gas can short them out. That will hold the robot in the room for a while, which is good because she'll have her hands full with the monster that put her there. In another lab, Carly Cooper, now going by the name Monster, begs for Sajani to give her the cure to the goblin formula. She needs to take it now, before she loses control. Sajani tells Monster that she's still running tests, and she's not going to inject Monster with something that could kill her, even if that means Sajani has to be stuck in the room with something that could kill her. Sajani just got done testing the serum on a lab rat, and after it broke out of its cage, it came at her. It might have even killed her if it hadn't exploded. Monster can't help but let out a snicker at the cruel fate of the innocent creature. That's when the Wraith arrives. "Thanks for the laugh," she says. "Now I know where to hit." At the moment, the Goblin protocols are still in effect. The Wraith, who uses the same lens technology as the superior Spider-Man, has been hacked by the Green Goblin, rendering her unable to see anyone with a goblin face, tattoo, or image on their person. But if the Wraith can keep Monster tangled in her tendrils, it won't matter if she's invisible. "You idiot!" Sajani screams. "What are you doing?" "I'll deal with you later, Victoria Frankenstein," the Wraith shoots back. Sajani pulls back on the hero's shoulder, explaining she's trying to cure Monster. Right now, she's still in control. Barely. But if the Wraith keeps this up, she'll push Monster over the edge. Monster's snicker turns into a small shriek of laughter. She then sinks her fangs into the hero's arm, breaking her concentration. "Oh, I'm over," she screeches. "And so are you." Monster grabs onto the Wraith's tendrils and flings her around the room, saying, "I was so confused, but I see so clearly now. Too bad you can't say the same." Monster snaps back on the tendril, pulling the Wraith back towards her before backhanding her back across the room. The Wraith is left helpless, taking one attack after another. Sajani calls out to her, "Wraith, look out! Are you blind?" "I can't see her," the Wraith responds. "How can you?" Sajani runs to grab the serum from her desk. "Okay, I know what's happening, and I know how to fix it. Wraith, grab her again. Hold her." The Wraith blindly feels forward, using her tendrils for assistance. "Easy for you to say." Monster cackles madly. "You wanna cuddle? I love a warm hug."
know what would make it warmer? Your blood!
Monster grabs onto Wraith and begins to strangle her around the throat. That's when Sajani makes her move.
Sorry, Carly, but we're out of options.
Sajani fills a syringe with the serum before jabbing it into Monster's ribcage. For a moment, nothing happens. The attack seemingly only manages to agitate Monster even further. She claims that if Sajani likes needles, then she has a few she can shove into Sajani's face. But then, all of a sudden, Monster's rage begins to dwindle. Her face begins to transform, and the Wraith can see her once again. Wait, did you call her Carly? The Wraith gasps. Carly Cooper. As Carly reverts to her normal self, she starts to become lightheaded. The Wraith grabs her. Carly, I've been looking everywhere for you, ever since Parker took you. Just before she loses consciousness, Carly responds that it wasn't Peter, it was the Goblin. And Sajani corroborates her story, explaining that the glitch with the Wraith's eyepieces, just like Spider-Man's, made it so she can't see anything that looks like a goblin. Moreover, the serum Sajani injected Carly with is experimental. She's still not totally sure it can fully cure her. For now, all they can do is wait. The Wraith scowls and rips out her eyepieces before crushing them in her fists. This whole time, she's been chasing the wrong target. Carly needed her, and she's not a doctor, so there's nothing she can do there. But at least the Wraith can get out there and make the Goblin pay. Her eyes are open now. Sajani asks the Wraith what she was even chasing Peter Parker and Spider-Man for. The Wraith responds that if they live through this, maybe she'll tell Sajani one day. But right now, to be honest, it just doesn't seem to matter.